Okay, guten Morgen. So let me really get to the bottom and explain to you exactly what I would call the timeline plot that was hatched on the Grenadian people. But listen to me carefully, because this is very interesting. Now, this timeline scheme is actually geared for the upcoming elections. And let me explain to you exactly how it's done. Now, when Andrea St. Bernard would have spoken to Perkins and Wills would have said to her, they gave her a dose of reality and would have said, look, this is not going to take 1 year or 2 year or 3 year or 4 year or 5 year. Okay? Just to get the design plans done, it's going to take, as we have said before, 12 to 18 months. Okay? So I want you to understand that, because these people are very direct. They don't bullshit. All right? They talk to you and they speak very direct. They tell you as it is. Okay? So then she now must have been disappointed. Like, oh, damn. Thought we could have scored a really quick victory on this and probably have something ready in a couple of months, 6 months for the Grenadian people. But no, this is way more complicated than that. So when they told her that, she's like, oh my goodness. She must have told her boss the situation and he must have said, oh my gosh, the Grenadian people is going to lose interest in this. So we have to act fast. We have to do something. Okay? So he must have said to her, or they must have discussed, well, guess what? As soon as you get just a little plan, anything you get, just let me know and we'll set up a so-called groundbreaking ceremony. Okay? So that way we can rile up the Grenadian people and we can once again get the interest in this Polaris project. So that's when they decided to hatch that groundbreaking ceremony. So as soon as Ms. St. Bernard got that concept plan, 1 to 2% of the total architectural final drawings. Okay? Very small. Important, but very small. Okay? So she said, look, let's hatch that groundbreaking ceremony. Okay? So we could rile up the masses and rile up our base and again, try to draw the interest into Polaris. Because we can't wait in 12 to 18 months when we get the final drawings. Then it's going to be too late. Then elections would have been called already. You understand what I'm saying? And that is just an estimate. A lot of things could go wrong. So it might be even longer. It might be 2-3 years, okay, to get everything finalized in terms of drawings before actual breaking of ground takes place. So she's like, no, we can't wait that long. So as soon as we get the concept plan, just the initial consultation to show what is possible, let's have a groundbreaking. And the other part of the sinister plot is to keep the money flowing. They must keep that money flowing. They must dangle little things in front of the Grenadian people so they can keep that money flowing. Okay? That's priority. Because as I have said, they've already burnt out through loads of cash. Okay? Over 22 million. And they can't explain this. I mean, they could explain it, but it's not the explanation that you are going to like. So mark my word, they're going to come and hit up the Grenadian taxpayer for a few more million, 30, 40 million. And then they're going to justify why they need to put more money in the budget coming in September. Okay? Because of this little thing that just dangled in front of your faces. Oh, we need more money for Polaris. Boy, oh boy. These people are good. Congratulations. Congratulations. You've done it again. So let me explain further the timeline plot. So the plot is this. Have this whimsical, fancy hoax of a groundbreaking, okay? And then hopefully by a year from now, which would coincide with when they have to call elections for sure, okay? Then we might have a little more advanced detailed plans, or at least we might have a 60% at minimum. And that way we can use the Polaris hoax as a campaign strategy and say to the Grenadian people, look, we're almost there with the plans, okay? We're almost there. Give us one more term and we're going to get it done. So that is the hinge pin, okay, of the campaign strategy. Remember, campaigns are not just won by numbers, but it's won by excitement, by motivation of the voters. So this is something, and we see how giddy-headed the voters have gotten just with a whimsical concept plan. So imagine they say to the voters, look, we have advanced detailed plans. Okay, we're almost there with the design. We're almost going to finish. And once the design is finished, then we can actually start building. You know? So that is the plot. This Polaris project is actually going to be the foundation of their campaign. Because really, there's nothing else to talk about. Everything else has failed. Closure, Granan's project. You see what I'm saying? The only thing I can talk about is the pension. And the pension was paid by the Grenadian people. The Grenadian taxpayers paid themselves. So this was not NDC's doing. This was the Grenadian taxpayers paying themselves. NDC came and met $500 million in the treasury. So they didn't work and make any money to pay the Grenadian pensioners. All right? That was money they met and used to pay the pensioners. So they can't take too much credit for that. But they can say, give us one more chance and we are going to get that hospital done. Because they've already started laying the groundwork to kind of make NNP and these other parties seem like obstructionists. And that's actually those other parties' fault. Because DPM and NNP should have addressed this whole Polaris hoax since 9 months ago, like yours truly and we at the GSDP, the Grenada Social Democratic Party. Okay? From the get-go, we saw through this. And that is why you can go on our timeline. You can go on Hanovi Global Network and you will see over 9 months ago, we're talking about Polaris. So I was looking at the Bob report and everyone was talking about NNP have all the numbers. They have a greater base, over 10,000 more. But if election was just about numbers, it means that NDC would have never ever won elections. So we have to first realize that elections are not just about numbers. It's also about motivation. Because if you look at the last election, even in some constituencies, over 2,200 people did not vote. People who are eligible and registered to vote did not vote, did not show up. So it's not just about numbers. Okay? It is about excitement. It is about motivation of the voters. It's about the voters coming close to the election being really motivated and want to show up at the polls. So for all the people that's talking about, we got the numbers and DPM don't have the numbers and, and NNP have the numbers and NDC don't have the numbers. It's not just about numbers. Okay? You'd be amazed. It's also about the party that can get their base riled up to actually show up to the polls. Okay? So now you know. That is the big timeline plot. Have this whimsical groundbreaking, which they know it's a sham. It's not like they don't know. Because Perkins and Wills would have set Miss Andrea Sembanat straight. As I said, these people are very direct. Okay? So it's like, let's do this to excite and rile up our base. So just in case, a year from now, which may coincide with elections, guess what? We can have something to present to our base and to the people of Grenada. So that will be the basis of our campaign strategy. Guess you guys didn't see that, huh? You guys didn't see that coming, huh? But guess what? They didn't fool us at the GSDP. We at the Grenada Social Democratic Party saw through this months ago. So many of you are late to the beach. So when you're talking about this now, guess what? NDC is going to say, see, they don't really want the hospital. Because you're going to seem now like you're a bit of obstructionist. Because you did not take the initiative and start speaking about this over 9 months ago, like yours truly, and like us at the GSDP. Okay? That's the problem. You are going to look now like obstructionists. Why at this stage? See, we're trying to make progress, and these parties are coming against the hospital. They don't want the hospital. Because that is what the haters on other podcasts are saying. No, these guys, they don't want the hospital, against the hospital. Okay? And they're also setting up the psychology behind it, where they're telling their voters and trying to tell the Grenadian people, if these other parties get in power, guess what? Guess what? Then they're going to scrap the hospital. And that is what they're pushing. So if NNP gets in power, they're going to scrap the hospital. If DPM gets in power, they're going to scrap the hospital. If the GSDP get in power, well, they can't say that about the GSDP because the GSDP are masters of infrastructure. We understand infrastructure more than anybody else. We have the technical know-how to deal with infrastructure. And I guarantee you, if the GSDP wins, then guess what? We will make sure that the hospital is built on budget, on time, and with efficiency. We're not going to rip off the Grenadian people and milk this project to enrich ourselves. So that is the plot that NDC is hoping and banking on for the campaign a year and a half from now or a year from now, okay? When they receive a little more advanced detailed plans, they can say, give us a second chance, let us build a hospital. We will build a hospital. Look, okay, we came in and we made a promise about trying to build a hospital, and now we have a little detailed plan. That is the game. But you know what is sad? And you know what is just, in some respects, wicked about that plan? It goes to show that the NDC and their comrades truly only care about power and money. Okay? That is what they care about. And they are willing to go to any lengths to ensure that they secure that money and that power. Even if it means the sacrifice and loss of life of a few Grenadian men, women, and children. Okay? So they could jeopardize the existing hospital. They could jeopardize and play with the lives of Grenadians. Okay? All because they want to take the taxpayers' money and push it towards this new hospital. Okay? So they don't care about propping up the existing hospital and making sure that people's lives are saved. As far as they're concerned, that is a sacrifice, literal sacrifice of Grenadian people so they can secure their money and maintain their power. Now that, my friends, is just tragic. And again, it tells you the sort of people that you're dealing with. You guys don't even realize. That is like another level. This takes cold, okay, callous, deadly cunning people to do this sort of thing. Okay? There's no lengths to which people like that would not go to maintain power and to secure more and more money. This is serious, avaricious, rapacious, okay, and dangerous people. So now you know who and what you're dealing with, okay? So while you guys continue to play softball, these people are playing hardball cricket, okay? And they're fighting tooth and nail to protect their money and power because they know they can milk this Polaris project all the way to the bank and sail all the way to power. So, DPM and NNP, if you don't see through all of this and you want to play softball, okay, you will get the rough end of the stick, okay? I'm warning the NNP, if they don't know, and I'm hoping that they would have analyzed that. If you guys lose that next election, the NNP party will fracture because there's going to be a blame game as to why you would have lost that election. Okay? And for all those who still like to dismiss the DPM, I have warned you guys again, months upon months ago, that no way on this planet you see people who enter into battle, political battle, and they underestimate their ops. They say, don't worry about them. We got them. They ain't no support. Do you ever see anybody enter into battle and dismiss their opponents? There are nations on this earth that has been destroyed because they underestimated their ops. Okay? There are nations that no longer exist because they underestimated their ops. So this sort of fanciful talk about, don't worry about the DPM. Don't worry about them. They're not no base. It's just fanciful talk. Okay? It's just like y'all were telling yourselves, don't worry about Deacon Mitchell and the NDC. The NDC is broken. In some respects, there was a level of arrogance and pride. Okay? And a lapse in judgment in the last campaign. And look, a bunch of novice and in some respects imposters, charlatans, parachuted into the NDC, hijacked the NDC together with the socialist Marxist comrade and sailed all the way to power. And now, this is what you guys have to deal with. Just maybe, if you didn't underestimate them in the last campaign and election, you probably would not have had to be subservient to them up to this day. So go ahead. Do the same thing again. Underestimate your ops. Underestimate DPM. Underestimate the cunning, okay, of the NDC. Because remember, they've learned a little. They've learned a lot, but they've learned a little. So the NDC party that campaigned last election, they saw their strategy, how it worked, of riling up people, pie in the sky ideas, rile up their base. They're younger, they're a little more emotional, and they don't think as much in a reasonable and critical thinking way. Okay? That is their base. That's who they are. Okay? A lot of them are more emotional. They're younger. So what it takes to get them motivated might be easier than what it takes the NNP voters to get motivated. Okay? So you should probably consider that. But if that plot hatched by the NDC, that timeline scheme I just exposed, works, and you guys' ass is grass, okay? Your asses are grass that will be eaten up by the NDC. So, that is the plot. Pretty cunning plot. The question for you guys to now figure out is how you counteract the cunning and devious plot